Okay. Hi, Tommy. How are you?
Fine, how are you?
Doing great. Thank you. Thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate it. Love your hat. I think that's wonderful.
Thanks.
I would wear one myself if it wasn't 110 degrees here in Las Vegas. But
Uh-huh.
I think in the
Well, it would
winter
shield you from the sun.
it would, but then my head gets sweaty and But in the winter, I would certainly wear it. So, anyways, very nice to see you. You've got a book out called Makeup Tips from Auschwitz How Vanity Saved My Mother's Life. Amazing title. We'll get to that in just a second. I wanted to ask you a little bit about you've got a talk show, a radio show.
Yes, I was the host of a 3-hour radio talk show on CJAD radio in Montreal.
Are you still doing that or are you retired?
No, I retired from that about 2 years ago.
What did you talk about for 3 hours?
What didn't I talk about for 3 hours? I mean, local, provincial, national politics, international politics. And one of the most amazing topics we came up with was obviously, we did legalization of marijuana many, many times, but one of them was something called Daniela's Dilemma. And strangely enough, that got the most calls, comments we've ever had. And Daniela's dilemma was quite simple. She was getting married, and she was my producer. She was getting married, and she didn't know at the wedding reception should she wear flip flops or high heels. And the battle raged back and forth on that issue. But we really covered every single issue in the news. Like I said, both locally, nationally, and internationally.
Okay, I'm just curious why she would want to make the choice between that because at the wedding reception, typically there's dancing, right? Now, dancing in flip flops, I don't know. I couldn't do that.
Right. Well, that's what all the arguments were. They say that you've got to. The number one thing is for you to be comfortable. You can take off your shoes. Other people said absolutely not. It's your wedding. You have to wear high heels. Anyway, the argument raged back and forth for quite some time.
So, what did she end up wearing?
Flip flops. She went with the comfort level. She went
Right.
with the flip flops.
I think I would have opted for barefoot if I was going to be between those two choices, yeah?
Right.
But, okay. So, is this your first published book or have you done other books?
No, this is my fourth book. I've done others. One was a humor book called The Gold Digger's Guide: How to Marry Rich. The second one was a political polemic. Canada is not a real country, based on a quote from Lucien Bouchard. And the third book was Are We On Yet? How to get interviewed and other media skills.
Funny about that line, Canada's not a real country. Did you see the movie Mambo Italiano?
Yes.
And there was that line where he said, when I was immigrating to North America, they didn't tell me there were two, the real one, the United States, and the fake one, Canada. I thought that was great. And then he went on to say, then they didn't tell me there were two Canadas, the real one,
Right.
Ontario, and the fake one, Quebec. Yeah. Tell me the little bit of the story. Your mother was at Auschwitz.
Yes. She was wandering around with her sister in a little town and thinking nothing different or unusual happened to them. And then, of course, a few weeks later, they're on a cattle car heading to Auschwitz. And my mother had a strong sense of self and a sense of vanity. And when she got off the cattle car and was taken in front of Joseph Mengele, who was choosing whether she lives or dies, he motioned her to the right so that she didn't go to the gas chamber. She went to the barracks where they were working. And when she arrived there and they gave her the prison outfit, the concentration camp outfit, she didn't like it. She didn't think it fit well. So her vanity made her change her daily ration of bread, of moldy bread, for needle and thread. She sewed up the outfit so that it fit better. And instead of using the swill they served up as coffee, instead of drinking it as coffee, she used it to polish her shoes. So she looked much more presentable. This is very important for her own sense of self, for her sense of self-esteem, to look good. So you've tried to degrade me, but I will not allow that to happen. So she did what she could. What this did is, when they had the morning daily roll call, Irma Greza on whom they patterned the character Ilse She-Wolf of the SS, told her to get out of line and asked, how could you be so clean in a place like this? And my mother told her exactly what happened. She told her the truth. And as a result, Grace had her be her valet, like to clean up her garden and polish her bicycle and do things for her during the course of the war. And that little position that she had may have saved her life. So in fact, that was the vanity that got that vanity and that self-esteem that got her through the Holocaust.
That's an amazing story. Your mother must have been quite a woman.
Yeah, she was quite a woman. And the book basically is my relationship with this unusual woman, because what happens is Holocaust survivors are extremely protective of their children. And what happens, the children of Holocaust survivors become extremely protective of their parents, because God forbid, what if anything happens to her? That, by the way, was my mantra, my theme in the decades that I went to therapy, in terms of if something happens to my mother, it'll be the end of me. So there was this fear, like if I called her up and she didn't answer on the first few rings, like the first 3 rings, most people would think, well, she's probably busy, or she's cooking something, or maybe she's in the washroom. Those were the thoughts that would occur to most people. If you're the child of Holocaust survivors, that will not be the first thought that occurs to you. The first thought that will occur to you is she's dead. Something happened. You will think the worst possible thing could happen, because we're descended from parents for whom the worst possible thing did happen.
Did she stay the valet for this woman for the entire time she was there?
Yes, no. She stayed the valet for a certain amount of time, and then she went into the labor camp where she was did factory work, working on airplane parts, and then she was liberated and went back to Hungary, and then later met my father. And then during the Hungarian Revolution, they escaped with me in the middle of the night, crossing a muddy field full of landmines.
So you were born in Budapest, according to your bio. Yeah?
Yes, that's correct.
How long were they there before they left?
Right after the war, they were back in Hungary stayed in Hungary for 10 years. And we escaped during the Hungarian Revolution, end of 56, beginning of 57.
And came to Canada?
Yes, came to Canada, flew from Vienna to Iceland and Greenland, and then landed in Moncton and took the train and came to Montreal.
I'm assuming your mother is no longer alive, right?
Yes, she passed away 3 years ago.
Oh, wow. So she was pretty
yes.
old.
That's part of the book at the end. She lived to the ripe old age of 100. And there's a very interesting passage towards the end of the book. And when I came back, she'd always not told me her real age, and was lessened it by 6 years. And when I came back, was cleaning up her stuff after she had passed away, I found a book, and in it she put some, like a beautiful thing you say about somebody who was once alive is no longer here and they're missed, etc. She'd read this somewhere as an inscription on a tombstone, and she wrote this 40 years ago, like over 40 years ago, when she was 60. And she said that this is something that could be used, she said, for someone special, provided they're over 100 years old. She wrote that 40 years ago. And what happened is, it was used for someone special, and it was over 100. And by the way, I hadn't finished my book. I had no ending. I had no ending for my memoir. And then she provided the ending when she passed away in 2019.
What did she do with her life after she got to Canada? Did she work, or did she just...
Oh, no. She specialized in being absolutely fascinating. I'll give you a quick example. I took her with me to the Cannes Film Festival, right? And we're at a restaurant, at the Moulin de Mougins restaurant. And as we come in, she couldn't understand why we're going to a restaurant. We have to take a cab to get there when we could eat at a restaurant near the hotel. But I told her it's a very special restaurant. And as we got in, we saw that Omar Sharif, the actor, was sitting at one of the tables, and I'm telling her. And she spotted him. I said, Anya, Mom, you can't go there. You can't go and bother him. You just can't do that. as I'm explaining this to her, right, I'm talking to her back because she's already gotten up and she's walking over to his table. I am so embarrassed, like I don't know what to do. I'm looking in the other direction. I'm just horrified at this. And by the time I look over to see what's going on, Omar Sharif is standing up. He's going to another table. He's getting a chair and bringing it over for her to join them. The next thing I see is my mother holding Omar Sharif's palm, and she's reading it. She's reading his palm. And why this is so fascinating is because she's not a palm reader. She's never done that in her life.
Oh,
she just made that up right then and there at the spur of the moment. I'll give you another quick example of her character. My father was a rabbi, and their high holiday tickets, they'd sell tickets for the high holidays. My mother was in charge of the tickets. So one day, this lady calls up and says, Mrs. Schnurmacher, I want to buy tickets for the high holidays, but I don't want to go for the whole thing. I want to go, just for the Yisker, the memorial service. If I want a ticket just for the memorial service, how much is the ticket? So my mother's reply was, before I answer you, I want to tell you my favorite movie, Cleopatra, with Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton. I love it. So romantic, especially when Richard Burton is kissing Elizabeth Taylor. If I go to the movie theater and I tell them, I want to see just the kissing scene, how much is the ticket? that was my mom. Another quick example, I took her to the Academy Awards with me, to the Oscars. And I had a press pass, and my friend Denny worked for Associated Press, said, listen, I'm only covering the arrivals. Why don't we give your mom the other press pass? Perfect. So there's mom and I watching the Hollywood arrivals, all the celebrities coming in their limo with our 2 press passes. And all of a sudden, Denny comes back and says, oh, I'm so sorry. The guy who was to do the reporting for the rest of the evening, he called in sick. I have to cover the rest of the evening. I'm so sorry, but I'll have to ask for my press pass back. So, of course, we gave her back the press pass. And then a tall 6'4" LA cop comes over, looks at her, looks at me and says, okay, which one of you is Tommy Schnurmacher? So my mother says, oh, officer, I'm so sorry. He is Tommy Schnurmacher. He has the press pass. I don't have a press pass, but it's okay. I will walk home from here in Los Angeles alone by myself in the dark. Anyway, the guy's absolutely charmed by her, puts his arm around her and escorts us over to where we get a good view of the proceedings. So just to give you an idea of her character, what she was like, that's helped her survive a lot of things, coming over the border. And she was just an unusual character. When I went back to Austria, where we landed after we fled Hungary, after 40 years, she told me that since I was going back to the Hotel Schönbrunn where we stayed, that I should ask the lost and found if they found her red purse. 39 years after we'd left, she still thought that I should double check just in case they could find the purse.
Was that her accent? Was she the Zsa Zsa Gabor?
Yes, that's exactly her. She sounded like Zsa Zsa Gabor's twin sister. She looked like Elizabeth Taylor, but sounded like Zsa Zsa Gabor. And interestingly enough, she was brave about absolutely everything. But once when we were in LA, I had interviewed Zsa Zsa Gabor, who was doing on tour with 40 Carats. I'd interviewed her and had her phone number. So when we were in LA, I called Zsa Zsa Gabor just to put her on the phone with my mother, and the two of them could talk to each other in Hungarian from the Polo Lounge of the Beverly Hills Hotel. And they had a great time chatting with one another. And Zsa Zsa Gabor invited my mom over. She wanted to show her her collection of shoes. And my mother was couldn't believe it, for the first time ever in her life, was too shy with Zsa Zsa Gabor and never.
Oh, you're kidding! Because that would have been an incredible meeting. That should have been.
Yes, the two of them. Yeah, the dueling accents would have been something.
Oh, you should have filmed that if that ever happened. Yeah. Wow. Well, God bless your mother. She sounds like she was an incredible woman, and
Thank you.
I'm glad that you wrote the book so that you can share that story with the world. We do have to wind this down. We are out of time, unfortunately. Thank you so much for coming on. Do you have a website you want to give out?
Yes, talkradiotommy.com.
Talkradiotommy.com. Okay.
And
there's links to the book from there?
Yes, there's links to the book, and the book is available hardcover, softcover, ebook, and I recorded an audio version complete with examples of the Hungarian accent.
Oh, beautiful.